Nintendo delivers a very pleasant surprise with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Let's talk about that new Thor Love and Thunder teaser. And I've rewatched SpiderMan No Way Home and The Batman, so I've got lots to say about both of those movies. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm so happy that you joined us here in the Electric Playground. We've got an amazing show for you today, and it's dedicated to the one and only Magnavox 1972, who had this to say on my LEGO Star Wars review. I'll admit, I saw this game on the Switch store and bought it thinking, good, a remastered version of the old LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga game from way back, and it had made it to the Switch. Now I can play that old game I had fond memories of on the go. Turns out that the new one is leaps and bounds better, and one of the best game purchases I've made in a long time. And yeah, that game, I think what's happened now, right, it's sort of gotten out into the public and people have been playing it and sort of soaking it up. There is so much detail in it. I know that there are still some, slight bugs and issues and things, some cleanup that has to happen. I bugged Mike, who I was talking to, the level designer on the game, about fixing the Steam Deck version of this title. But it is marvelous. You know, if you happen to be a Star Wars fan and a LEGO fan, you're going to be in heaven with this game. There's just so much freaking content in it, and it was a real treat to talk with Mike Consalvi, I think is his last name. We had a good Vic's Basement, so if you haven't caught that on our YouTube channel, make sure you do, youtube.com/EPNTV. All right, let's get started with your rundown, and we've got a bunch of Nintendo news to get to, starting with a new release date for a big JRPG. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has moved from the fall time frame, and it's actually going to be coming out in the summertime. July 29th is the new release date that Nintendo posted, along with this new trailer showing off all of the epic battles and the massive epic scope of the story that we're about to encounter in this game. I loved my time with Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They are massive games, though. They are absolutely enormous experiences. They're filled with so many characters and so much room to roam, and lots of, organic and mechanical beasts to contend with, and that's really like the core of the story here, is this organic versus mechanical war that's happening with these giant titans that are in the background. And so this is stretching the storyline even further and deeper and picking up exactly where Xenoblade Chronicles 2 left off. I know that there are massive fans for this franchise all over the world, and Nintendo has not let us down with this installment or with this series at all, and this new installment looks like it's kind of leveling up. I mean, there are games coming out for the Switch where you look at them and you go, how the hell are they able to maintain this visual fidelity and the scope and scale of these experiences on this platform? But the Switch is, the mighty system that can go and go and go, and this title looks absolutely sensational. We'll be getting it much sooner than we expected, and one of the cool things that they're talking about with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, of course, like they've done with Xenoblade Chronicles games in the past, is of course there's going to be a beautiful collector's edition, and they tease it in the trailer here, and of course we're going to learn a little bit more about it. But I think the hype about this trailer today and this announcement today is just that we're going to be getting it sooner than we expected. So look for this one if you're a big JRPG fan. And you know what? If you haven't played any of the previous Xenoblade Chronicles games, you absolutely owe it to yourself. They really, they're so beautiful and so well made, and there's no reason, there's no wonder why it's such a popular series. Here's the special edition right there. You get the art book and a steel bookcase. It's not massive. There isn't tons of like action figures and things like that, but it's probably already sold out. But that is all coming out on July 29th, and I can't wait to dive back into the world of Xenoblade Chronicles. But that's not all that's happening in Nintendo news. Kirby has celebrating the Forgotten Land, the latest Kirby adventure, which is terrific, by the way, has jumped into Tetris 99. Now, I haven't played Tetris 99 in a long time, but there's obviously some Kirby artwork and some Kirby characters and things like that you can jump into this manic re-envisioning of Tetris where you can play with lots of other people on the internet and try to survive for as long as you can. It's really just a way to kind of celebrate the launch of this title. And Nintendo is actually doing some pretty good stuff. Usually what they do at Nintendo is they launch a game and they're already on to the next one, but I've noticed that they've done a lot of promotion around the Forgotten Land because it is a special experience. It's a really, really cool game. So if you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, you can download this and play Kirby in your Tetris 99 right now. And there's also some other stuff that's percolating out there. This isn't official news, but leaks are starting to happen all over the place. And I noticed on Video Games Chronicle that the Nintendo Switch's Game Boy emulator has been leaked, and people are tweeting about it. There's all kinds of stories about it. There is a tweet out there from Mondo Mega, who has a whole library of the Game Boy Advance titles that have been tested with these emulators. Apparently on cracked switches or switch debug units or whatever, but they've done a lot of data mining, people that know how to hack into all of this stuff and figure out this stuff, but they've gotten a pretty good feel for how this emulator, which we've all been kind of anticipating that Nintendo is working on. I mean, it's not a huge stretch of the imagination to think that Nintendo's got some Game Boy plans for Nintendo Switch Online. It looks like it's coming up sooner rather than later, and that means that we're going to be getting some pretty cool GBA titles like Yoshi's Story, likely Yoshi's Story and Super Mario Kart, and all of the different awesome Game Boy Advance games that we fell in love with back in the day and have really stood the test of time. I mean, the GBA was such a phenomenal platform for capturing all of the great work that had been done up to that point in 2D with some slight three-dimensional embellishments. Here we've got the Pokemon Pinball game, which was a total blast, celebrating Ruby and Sapphire in an interesting new way. And of course, there's, they're going to hit things like Golden Sun and F-Zero and lots of really fantastic Game Boy Advance games. One of the ones that I saw on there is the Astro Boy game that Treasure made, and that was a really, really fun game. And Ninja 5.0 I also saw on the list as well. So who knows when this is all coming? They haven't officially announced it. This is really sort of digging into conjecture and speculation, but it has been data mined, and people have been, finding out that the emulator will run games like Advance Wars and stuff. And also, of course, we want to know about the classic Game Boy stuff like Super Mario Land, and one of my favorite of the old classic Game Boy games. This was a total trip of a game. I remember buying this with my Game Boy on when I got it. I picked it up. This was one of the first games that I got for it, Tetris and this one. And I just freaking adored it. It's so weird. It feels so different from all the other Mario adventures, and it should be played, but this is the one that I really want to see make a comeback, not just in the classic sense for us to be able to play Kirby Pinball Land, but I would love a new one. I would love them to remake this or revisit this and make a sequel or something like that. So that's what kind of excites me about all of this Game Boy stuff headed our way, and fingers crossed that this is all happening. And hopefully it is just part of the expansion pack that the Switch Online players, a lot of them are already subscribed to. And Nintendo's doing a lot more. Like on Friday, they released Mario Golf for Nintendo 64. They're doing more to kind of prove out the value, but hopefully you don't have to pay any more and you're going to be able to access all of this Game Boy stuff. So I guess this is the Rundown's way of pushing Nintendo to make that freaking announcement. Let's go with this. I want to see some of those sprite-based GBA games on the Nintendo Switch OLED. I've been saying that for a long time. Something else that I want to see, and we've been waiting a long time for, is the brand new Thor movie, and Marvel has released a little teaser of Thor: Love and Thunder. This one hit like a ton of bricks yesterday. Taika Waititi is an incredible filmmaker, and he puts all kinds of humor into his work, but he also obviously gets the Marvel playground to make his stories action-packed and filled with color and flavor and lore and lots of Easter eggs. It's a very flashy, and it's a very quick running teaser. You see that Thor has lost some of the weight that he picked up in Avengers Endgame, and I love that he's working out with chains just like the real Chris Hemsworth does on his app and in all of his Instagram photos and stuff. We get a little bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy in this trailer, which is really cool, and of course this has got that patented sly sense of humor that Waititi is kind of known for, with also combined with all the visual splendor and all the beauty. I don't know who this new pirate lady that Thor is kissing in this thing. We do get a glimpse of Russell Crowe as Zeus. And so one of the big things with this film, and I don't think I'm spoiling too much, but Christian Bale is playing a god killer. So the speculation is that he's going to be killing some gods, and we're going to be seeing some pretty horrific things. But I love this little bit right here where we get the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Chris Pratt's looking at his teammates, but Thor gets in the way. He's all kind of lovey-dovey-eyed, and his hair's all 1970s. There's an awesome 1970s album cover kind of perspective to this. But of course, the big sort of moment in this thing is Natalie Portman showing off the gun show and all the work that she's been putting in, working out to become the mighty Thor. And I noticed that Marvel had something pretty cool on their YouTube channel. They've got a little bit of a background from the comics lore on how Jane Foster becomes Mighty Thor. So if you haven't read all of these stories and sort of dug into the fiction and the sort of source material for what this movie is kind of based on, this is a pretty interesting video to go out and check out. I didn't know that in the comics, Jane Foster has breast cancer, and she's like on her deathbed, but somehow she's able to pick up Mjolnir, and she becomes the mighty Thor. And so I don't know if they're going to play that same kind of thing out in the film, but it's pretty interesting, and obviously some beautiful art, and I'm definitely going to dig into some of these comics now to kind of get prepped for Thor Love and Thunder, which is coming out in July. But before that movie comes out, we've got Doctor Strange, and Marvel also dropped a new teaser, a short little trailer video, like a TV commercial kind of thing, showing off some new footage for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I forget how to say the whole thing. But one of the things that I dug in this thing is the aspect ratio getting blown up as the date comes in. You can tell like it's just a movie bursting at the seams to kind of show off its visual splendor and its ambitions. Comes out next month, man. We're days away from this thing. You see a little bit of a zombie Scarlet Witch. You see Wong fighting one of the giant one-eyed monsters there with the tentacles, the third eye on Doctor Strange. There's a lot thrown at us in these 30 quick seconds. That shot of Doctor Strange breaking apart into these cube pieces always freaks me out, but the movie looks incredible. I can't wait to see all of the illusions and connections and the cameos. We're going to have our minds blown by Doctor Strange 2, and then not long after that, Thor 4, which who would have thought that we would have gotten 4 Thor movies, and it looks like there's no end in sight either, because Hemsworth is pretty much confirmed that he wants to stay as this character and keep making movies, especially if Taika Waititi's involved with them. Can't wait. Marvel's got a lot of entertainment headed our way, and what's going to be interesting is to see how much these two big movies are threaded into some of the teasers from Loki and now Moon Knight, because they're playing with the gods now. And it's going to be super interesting. Now, something else that's been in the Marvel universe that has been entertaining me recently is SpiderMan No Way Home. Sony shot me out the 4K Blu-ray to review. Let's talk a little bit about that. Now, this is interesting because I thought the movie was really cool when I saw it in the theaters, but I did have some issues with it, primarily based on how much was leaked and released as part of the marketing. It really drove me crazy that I knew about so much stuff that was headed our way. I absolutely loved the energy of the movie and the performances from everybody, but I wanted to revisit this film, and I actually purchased it as a digital file, and I watched it a little while ago, and then I watched it again on 4K Blu-ray, and I watched it again with my kid. So I have seen it 4 times now. And one of the things that I'm discovering about Spider-Man No Way Home is that it is eminently rewatchable. There's so much fantastic stuff in this movie. Not, of course, all of the extra spider lore and Willem Dafoe's incredible Green Goblin, and all the other actors playing these villains that we've known from the previous Spider films, and of course, spoiler alert if you haven't seen or don't know that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in there. There's just a lot of heartwarming stuff, but at the center of it is just this relationship between Spider-Man and Peter Parker and his friends, basically. It's just very heartfelt and very human and humorous, and there's been a lot of the stacking on those relationships over these 3 movies that John Watts has directed, in the vein of the John Hughes films from the 80s. And I've loved all of it. I've loved the journey that they've taken us on. And so the center of this film really speaks to me. I do feel like there was no way to avoid some of the pitfalls of making this gimmicky. There was no way, because they only have 2.5 hours or something like that, and so not every villain really gets their full glory, and has their story completely fleshed out. I feel like Jamie Foxx's Electro is a little bit underutilized and a little nonsensical, doesn't have the same kind of resonance or weight emotionally as Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, especially. And the other, we know, because we've been talking about Spider-Man No Way Home for a long time now, that some of the actors weren't actually even on set. And you can kind of feel that. I also felt like some of the motivations from Doctor Strange felt a little bit engineered strictly to service the plot, and they didn't feel completely true to the character and his growth as a superhero. He felt a little immature and cavalier about some of the things that were going on. But of course, it does serve the plot, and there is this really wonderful thing that happens with Spider-Man sort of claiming his empathy and his responsibility through the course of this film. And I love the central theme of this thing is about redemption and about forgiveness and about trying to help these people rather than cart them off to their death. And I was really profoundly affected by that on subsequent viewings. I think some of that stuff didn't really register with me the same way when I saw it the first time, because I was kind of waiting for the surprise beats that I knew were headed my way. And I enjoyed them when they happened the first time, but I appreciated them more on subsequent viewings. And of course, the 4K resolution is absolutely stunning. It looks good on streaming for sure, but it does look, crystal clear when you've got a 4K Blu-ray setup. I played this on the PlayStation 5, which seemed quite fitting. And it looked great. And of course, one of the great things that you get with whether you pick it up digitally or you pick it up as a Blu-ray now is you get all the behind the scenes. And there's some awesome stuff kind of sort of profiling the efforts that Tom Holland has gone to really sell this character. And also a really interesting kind of deep dive into how they put the effects over his street clothes. So he'll be doing stunt work wearing a suit, but they will put the spider suit over top of him. And just the level of commitment, too, because they've got a whole bunch of behind the scenes. Everybody's on wires and stuff. And in this particular sequence, Tom Holland's talking about how hard it is to make that perfect landing. Much respect to Tom Holland and his physical work, but also, I thought this the first time that I watched the film. I've really grown to admire his acting ability. He's got to sell a lot of really heavy emotional stuff, like the death of Aunt May. I'm spoiling everything here, so I hope you haven't seen it. Which I also thought wasn't quite owned. I felt like we were not in Aunt May's world enough for us to get that heaviness and that hit, especially because there was no other parental figure apart from Aunt May in the lore that John Watts put together for his 3 films. So we didn't really have this other adult connection. I guess Tony Stark was a bit of a father figure for Peter Parker, but it wasn't quite the same as an Uncle Ben like we saw in the other Spider-Man movies. And so I felt like we took out Aunt May a little bit too soon. I would have liked to have seen her in the next iterations, or wherever we're going to go now with Tom Holland. But of course, that shock of like, wow, they got rid of him. They got rid of Marissa Tomei's awesome Aunt May so early, I think, in the lore. That really hit me hard when I saw it the first time, and now that I've watched it over and over again, I can kind of see that the mechanisms are there to kind of teach Tom Holland's Spider-Man that he has to grow up and he has to accept responsibility, and every choice is going to have repercussions. And he makes some pretty heavy choices in this film, which I dug. But counterbalance to the heaviness and the emotional kind of weight, of course, is all of the humor. These are really funny films. Maybe that's what I kind of felt was a little bit weird with Doctor Strange too, is, Strange has a comedic streak in his movies because he's sardonic or in his first movie. We'll see how funny Doctor Strange 2 is. But it's a different kind of humor than the Spider-Man humor, and I felt like they pushed Doctor Strange's comedy in a different direction, kind of a little bit more juvenile, a little bit more goofball, and I just didn't feel like that fit the character, right? The character just seemed to be a little bit more. I mean, I like this little bit where he can't really make the landing and stuff, and he's in a winter coat and all that stuff. But the gag reel is super fun in Spider-Man No Way Home, and all of the behind-the-scenes extras are absolutely worth it. It's a hypnotic movie, It's one where I think I like the other two Spider-Man movies still more than Spider-Man No Way Home, which I know people think is nuts, but I just like them as contained vehicles for this character and his friends to kind of evolve, and they did a really good job setting all of that stuff. And No Way Home got massive and huge, and because it is so massive and huge, and filled with so many pieces to enjoy, I think it's more rewatchable than the other Spider-Man movies, although I like those better. Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite, but Spider-Man's had a really good run on film, and I'm very curious to see where they go now, because we've got an adult Tom Holland sort of claiming the mantle of Spider-Man. He's no longer a kid that is pretending to be Spider-Man. He really has kind of owned that. So very, very interested to see where this franchise goes now. I gave Spider-Man No Way Home, after the theatrical experience, a 7.5 out of 10. I'm way less critical of it now. I really appreciate it now. I think it's tremendously fun entertainment. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 now that we can watch it in home video. All right, let's talk about another superhero movie that has come to home theaters everywhere. I'm talking about The Batman, Matt Reeves' opus, which came out 45 days ago. And it's surreal that on Crave here in Canada and on HBO Max in the US, you can now watch this 3-hour epic, this lush, beautiful masterpiece of a movie, whether you like Batman or not, at home, and get lost in it and pick up all of the details and all the work and all of the effort that the filmmaker and all of his contributors kind of put into this thing to make it feel authentic and make it feel, so satisfying, especially on my rewatch. I noticed this the first time that I watched The Batman, but the rewatch, it really hits it home. It's like you're flipping pages of an awesome Frank Miller or Denny O'Neil graphic novel. It just feels so close to the source material, and it's so well crafted. Yes, the action is in there, and I love that the action feels as in place and as tied to reality as, all of the detective work that they put a heavy emphasis on. When he does have to go into action mode, Batman sells it, and it makes a lot of sense. I also loved, on my rewatch, recognizing how much Batman throws himself and Bruce Wayne throws himself into harm's way whenever there is a child that looks like they might get hurt. And he empathizes with them in a big way. And it kind of foreshadows that idea that he's going to be a guardian for Dick Grayson and have his Robin. But I thought that was really wonderful. I also love the darkness of the movie, like the literal darkness of the movie. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to make out the shadows. Even that first very effective shot of the Riddler being revealed behind a victim is so spooky and so well realized. And, that's the film. Like, there's lots of out-of-focus shots and lots of close-ups on things that you can't quite make out what they are until the camera pulls back and sort of reveals the rest of the mystery. There's a lot of, focus pulling and interesting kind of artistry that's on exhibit as you're watching this movie that you respect. You respect the filmmaking of it. It's not a showy film that's like throwing all kinds of visual effects and CG and stuff at you. There's a little bit of it for sure, but it's a movie that takes this long to track over a cafe table to reveal a question mark in a cappuccino. You know, like there are real moments. And I think it's those real long kind of hesitations and moments where the camera's left to breathe and we see these long shots and these non-vocalized back and forth elements between characters that can turn some people off too, right? Like this is an indulgent, artful film, and I love that about the movie. I mean, when I've read some of my favorite comic books, it's really gotten granular. You know, the Batman stuff can get really into its lore and into the head of the character, and you're psychoanalyzing who this person is, but you're also in the boots of the character because there's a lot of voiceover and narration, and there's a little bit of that in this one as well, you know? And it kind of evoked Blade Runner, which is something that I talked about when I saw the theatrical release. It was like, I felt the same kind of noir, pulpy, detective qualities out of Ridley Scott's original Blade Runner, where everything looked foreign but somewhat familiar. And I also love that about this movie too, is that Batman has awesome gadgets and tech, but they feel very grounded and rooted in reality. He has contact lenses that can videotape everything around them and can hyperlink to him back in the cave and stuff. Even if it's like pretty interesting technology, it still feels like it could be something from 50 years ago, you know? It still feels crusty and dirty and dark. And that's, that's like the core kind of vibe coming off of this. It's like these are the worst, dingiest, crappiest nightclubs in the world, but everybody wants to go and jam there and party there. And Batman gets into big fights in the middle of it. And the other thing that I just adore about this movie too is that Robert Pattinson is always Batman. Even if he's Bruce Wayne, even if he's got a baseball cap and eyeshadow over his eyes or whatever, eye makeup, he's still Batman. If he's out of the suit, he's Batman. If he's in the suit, he's Batman. But there is so much Batman. You know, he hasn't learned how to be Bruce Wayne yet, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does to kind of create that alter ego in the next film, because one other beautiful element in this movie, somewhat like No Way Home, is that we see the character mature, and we see that arc, and we see by the end of it that he's got a responsibility not just to beat the crap out of the bad guys, but to save the good people of Gotham, and to be a kind of a leader, kind of a symbol of something hopeful and positive in this city. And he does it all the way through with this credo of no guns. He's incredibly violent, and of course he's an obsessive, and he goes over the top and beats the crap out of things. This car chase sequence with Colin Farrell's incredible Penguin is just mesmerizing. The Batmobile that they've created for this movie is right in keeping with the technology and the sort of. It's this weird combination. It looks like it's slightly in the future, but also 50 years in the past at the same time. And you can kind of say that about Blade Runner as well, right? It's like Gotham is a world that's falling apart, but it still has all of the opulence and all of the the things that you would expect out of a beautiful, technologically rich city. And I love the muted neon and the way that the city is filmed and stuff as well. The one thing that I will say about the Batman, though, is that we've had great Batman movies on screen, and yesterday I tweeted out my favorites across all of the movies and where they intersect, and they're, Nolan's shadow across the Batman is huge. And I think that Tim Burton's stuff is also so indelible as well. Like, I love Zoe Kravitz as this new Catwoman, but she doesn't hold a candle to Michelle Pfeiffer's amazing Catwoman. And the weird kind of animated vibe that the old Tim Burton movies had. Like, that felt like he looked at the 1940s comics and said, let's put that on screen. And so they all, stand apart, and they're all valid and really fun, movies to trip through, and and they're all terrific to kind of re-enjoy. And I think that is a blessing and a curse with the Batman, because we've seen Batman on screen done so well often. But this is still magnificent filmmaking. I feel like it's an auteur piece. It really kind of showcases the talent of Matt Reeves, both as a writer and as a director. And definitely the cinematography in this film is just absolutely incredible, you know? I think that this is one that I'm going to pick up on 4K Blu-ray, because I'm going to want it in the highest resolution that I can watch it. The stream was pretty solid, so kudos to Crave for not blowing that. But God, this is for me, this is a transcendent Batman movie. Like, I absolutely adore it, and I thought that I would, because I've liked a lot of what Matt Reeves has already worked on, and I know how smart of a movie maker he is. But I had hesitations about Robert Pattinson. And he's great. He's awesome. He's still got more range to kind of show. And, you know, what's interesting about this movie is that it tees it all up. There's a lot for this. You know, obviously the Joker can come into play in the future, and what other characters can come out of the shadows, out of Arkham Asylum. But this has a sort of the opening salvo from Matt Reeves and company. Incredible. I gave it a 9.5 when I saw it in the theater, and it's between a 9.5 and a 10 for me. And honestly, it's like Dark Knight and then the Batman, and then maybe Tim Burton's Batman Returns or something like that for me. I love these movies, but Matt Reeves really nailed it. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10, and make sure you watch it. All right, I've got a few quick things to tell you guys about. We're going to talk first about Streets of Rage. One of the best brawlers in video game history is being transformed into a film, and potentially a film series, from John Wick's creator, Derek Kolstad. Deadline reported this. It's all over the internet right now. And of course, Streets of Rage, if you've never played this franchise, is ridiculously fun. This is so fun that I think I introduced it to my 8-year-old daughter, and she got it right away. She loves playing Cherry in Streets of Rage 4. We played through the classic Sega Genesis games together, my kid and I. You know, it's just something about, you know, beating up on these gangsters in this crime-ridden city, and the corrupt cops that you got to take out. It's really, really addictive and loaded with lots of charm and character, and it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, if it has the sort of 90s kitschiness about it in the movie version of this. Like, how true to the source are they going to stick? But Sega's on fire with Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think that's and it's being produced by DJ2 Entertainment, which was a part of the Sonic the Hedgehog ingredients as well, bringing Sonic to the movie screens, and now they've got 2 huge blockbusters under their belt. So I think there's been some really interesting lessons learned by Sega and its movie partners, and we'll see how Streets of Rage turns out, but I am fired up to see that. I'm also fired up to see that Crazy Taxi might be returning. Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio are apparently, according to this report from Bloomberg, being remade as big AAA experiences, potentially as part of the live services kind of thing that's going on out there, because Sega seems to be targeting explicitly all of the success that Fortnite has had. And for those that have never played Crazy Taxi, it was in the arcades, and it was a seminal Dreamcast collection. And of course, it's been redone for mobile, and there was an Xbox version of Crazy Taxi. The whole idea is survive these insane mini games and deliver people from their pickup spot to their destination and pull off as many crazy stunts as you possibly can. So very, very fun experience as a video game, and it's been surprising that we've had this long pause. Like, we haven't heard anything about Crazy Taxi in a long time. And Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, or Jet Grind Radio, I think was the very first game, also stems from the Dreamcast era, and this is an inline skating graffiti action-adventure game where you have to pull off stunts and tricks and not get caught by the fascist cops that are out trying to stop you from having fun or tagging any of the walls. And it had an incredible cel-shaded art style and lots of cool characters. Again, an amazing universe that Sega crafted for us. That it's been weird that we've had radio silence no pun intended, about radio, Jet Set Radio for so long. So hopefully those two come out soon, or we hear more about them soon, and they're both awesome. I just hope that they're not like overtly free to play and trying to microtransaction us up the wazoo. You know, I would much rather have a couple of AAA reimaginings that cost real dough, but you get everything out of the purchase price. You know what I mean? Let me know what you guys think about that idea. All right, and this one is very cool. Amy Hennig is heading back to the world of Star Wars. We know that Amy Hennig was supposed to be building a Star Wars game several years ago when she was overseeing Visceral Games. It was codenamed Ragtag, or Operation Ragtag or something. But it was supposed to be a very cinematic, Uncharted-esque Star Wars action-adventure game with beautiful cut sequences. Doug Chiang from Lucasfilm, who worked on some of the movies and the TV shows, was a part of envisioning where this story was going to go. And we got a nice little teaser, and then all hell broke loose, and Amy ended up having to leave Electronic Arts, and Visceral got shut down. Well, she is heading back to a galaxy far, far away, and today Skydance and Lucasfilm Games announced that they're teaming up for a brand new Star Wars project, and what they're saying is that this is going to be an incredibly cinematic experience, so akin to stuff that Amy Hennig has been attached to in the past. She's currently working on a Marvel game, so there is a nice tie-in there with Disney. So she's got a Marvel game that she's in the works on. Also contributed to some of the stuff on Forspoken, which is coming up soon from Square Enix. But Amy had this to say about venturing back to Star Wars. I've often described how seeing Star Wars in 1977 essentially rewired my 12-year-old brain, shaping my creative life and future indelibly, said Hennig, who's the president of Skydance New Media. I'm elated to be working with Lucasfilm Games again to tell interactive stories in this galaxy that I love. I couldn't be more happy about this because I went and visited Amy when they were hard at work on the game, and of course I was very curious. It wasn't to put a story or anything, it was way too soon, but I've been a friend and a fan of Amy for my whole career, pretty much. She was one of the first people that I visited with and interviewed when she worked at Crystal Dynamics back in the day, and then I ran into her all the time when I visited Naughty Dog, and she is just an incredible creator, just a visionary creator that knows what she's doing in the space, has a really incredible sort of film background and appreciation for storytelling. I can't wait to see what she does with Star Wars. And Doug Riley, who is running Lucasfilm Games, said we couldn't be more thrilled to be working again with Amy. She and the Skydance New Media team have the talent and ambition to create a unique Star Wars adventure, and their vision for making inviting cinematic interactive entertainment makes this collaboration very exciting. We're working hard with her team of experienced and talented developers, and we're looking forward to sharing more with Star Wars fans when the time is right. So, Lucasfilm Games is not slowing down on new Star Wars ideas. We've got a bunch headed our way. Jedi Fallen Order 2, I can't wait from Respawn, and whatever Ubisoft Massive is working on as well. But this gets me very, very excited. I can't wait to see. And maybe, there's going to be some kind of synergy or some kind of partnership with Dave Filoni and what he's been doing with The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and overseeing Obi-Wan and all the stuff that's headed our way. The Ahsoka show that's coming too. Exciting stuff. Very, very exciting time for Star Wars fans like myself. Also exciting is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which is headed our way soon. We don't know the release date. We know that you're getting 13, classic, awesome Turtles games in this collection. But today, Konami announced that there's going to be a very cool collector's set, and it's going to offer all kinds of stuff in it. It's going to have a physical copy of the game, of course, which has got a new box designed by co-creator Kevin Eastman. There's a cloth poster. There's a multi-layer acrylic diorama of the different characters. There's an enamel pin set. There's 12 translucent comic-style character trading cards. And then, of course, the pièce de résistance, the full-color art book, which is going to show off all of the stuff that went into the game. I'm so happy for Eastman and Laird to have the opportunity to take these games and relaunch them to a new generation of players out there. Certainly there's going to be a lot of parents like myself that are going to be picking up this game and sharing it with their children, or these games, and showing them the roots of the Turtles in video game form, but also this incredible storytelling and all of these amazing characters and the history of it and the importance of the history of it and how timeless these classic games are. And, I've streamed a bunch of the Turtles in Time game on the channel. I've reviewed a bunch of classic Turtles games on our YouTube channel. And it's always a treat to go back into this world. So I'm super stoked that Konami has made this happen with Nickelodeon. They got the right developers at Digital Eclipse to work on this and port this. And that collector set looks pretty damn cool. I know that the collector set is pretty much sold out in most of the retailers that have it. It was up on the Target store. It was on the Best Buy store. I think it's about $150 American, and it's close to $200 in Canada. If you can scoop it up, I think a big part of that deal is that you get the physical edition of the game, because a lot of people are going to be buying the thing digitally. But what a way to honor these classic moments in gaming history. Can't wait for the Cowabunga collection. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again soon with a brand new episode for you. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/EPNTV. Hit that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified. And also follow our Twitch channel for the live streams. We do the rundowns live, and we play all kinds of games at twitch.tv/EPN. Thank you to our subscribers and our followers. You guys are fantastic. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.